the U.S. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Paul. Good to be here.
Looking sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Sucker.
You're leaving here to go where?
Louisville.
Yep. So on the road again and back in Washington. What is today? Thursday. What is Monday?
Monday. We'll be back in D.C.
Good to have you on Mississippi soil, though. You got to cleanse the mind every once in a while.
I tell you, I was really, really glad to land in Jackson, Mississippi, and head to Brookhaven.
Let's get to a couple of things here. Let's talk about the border first of all, because there is a continued crisis on the border. For some reason, the media won't concentrate on that. They're almost like it doesn't happen. This was from early on. They did not want to show some of the crowded facilities and some of the cages. And then all of a sudden, a couple of 3 months later, they showed them. What they did neglected to say is they just moved those kids from one place to the other. But it continues. You know,
it is amazing because I've been there. I've been there recently. Senator Ted Cruz took a group of us down, and literally we waited till about midnight to go down there so the smugglers would be moving. And we stayed till about 2:30 a.m., 3 a.m., and, it was pretty eye-opening. I'd been there before, but to think that this administration is ignoring the problem and actually, they're making the problem much, much worse because, Paul, there is so much fentanyl coming across that border.
Yep.
And, you talk about the humanitarian crisis, but look at the drug issues that we already have that's being totally compounded by that.
Tom Homan, who was the head honcho under Trump, had a great piece on this yesterday.
What do you make of the increase in the criminals that are crossing? They're using the migrants, these innocent people, as shields on one end, keep the Border Patrol guys busy. On the other side, you're running fentanyl across the country. We've been talking about it, and nothing has changed. Why?
Well, it should be very concerning to everybody because they arrested nearly 7,000. That's who they arrested. And you got to understand the family units and the children, they're turning themselves into the Border Patrol because they know they're going to be released. The people who are not turning themselves into the Border Patrol are the single adults who have criminal convictions. So for Border Patrol to arrest 7,000, that concerns me because we already know between 1,200 and 1,500 get away every day. 1,200 and 1,500 every day. That's 40,000 a month that aren't being caught. So if they're arresting more criminals, can you imagine what's getting away? It's scary.
It is scary. And you realize we're not that far from the border.
Oh, no. I mean, you hit I-20, and you're in Mississippi, and they're, going to every point in this country, and they're concentrating in, larger cities that it's easier to fly under the radar.
So what do we do about it? I mean, what can we do about it? Is it one of those things we understand it, we're not happy with it, and it's just going to get worse, but we got to wait for midterms? Something's got to happen.
I don't see any way else to do that because I'm telling you, the former administration, we were headed in the right direction. I mean, there were policies put in place that were proven to work. And, of course, the state of Texas now says that they're building, their own wall down there. But there were so many great policies, and nothing makes this administration angrier than to say, well, why don't we go back to the way we were doing it? That was proven to work. But it is definitely a crisis, and we're feeling the effects of it, and we will for a long time. It just blows me away that the vice president waited so long to go down there.
I think the absurdity was bookmarked as in that one thing where you had a gap, where they were all coming through the gap. Did you remember seeing this?
Oh, yes. I have a picture of it on my phone.
The gate or the fence was there, but they had to have a study committee to figure out how to put the gate up there. I mean, that's absurd.
Well, they know exactly where to go through to get through. And, I mean, even when you get into the woods, there's signs nailed to the trees on which direction to go.
Yeah, we know exactly what's happened. And I'm not going to play the whole thing here, but I want to ask you a question. What do you think happened
President
from these
Obama
days?
is sending 1,200 National Guard troops to boost security along the U.S.-Mexican border.
The president is also requesting $500 million for border security, but some border state politicians are already saying more help is needed.
And I could play that whole clip on there. All Democrats saying we need to strengthen the border. This was just a few years ago. What happened?
It changed. It went in another direction, and the mentality behind that just amazes all of us because it's obvious we have a country that is vibrant, that you can enjoy prosperity, but there's rules that you abide by. And, they're just doing away with all the rules, saying come in, there's no checkpoints, and it is utterly insane that it's happening.
Let me move from the border to the budget reconciliation, because the budget that Joe Biden presented as far as a defense budget, I know that one word in here caught your ire, was that he said, it's an adequate budget.
Exactly, and you must have seen a clip when I addressed that it was adequate when it comes to the budget and
I'm sure
the
Putin
defense
loved
budget.
That, yeah.
Well, what's going on is obviously this administration is not interested whatsoever in supporting our military. There is peace through strength, but you have to have the funding there to create the strength. And it will, with inflation, it is cutting the budget. But the scary part is there is the Budget Reconciliation Act. This was established in 1974. And it's like three prongs to it. There's one shot that they can get that can circumvent the filibuster, that it would just be a simple majority to pass. And part of that is within the budget. And the chairman of the Budget Committee is Bernie Sanders, if that's not scary enough.
It is.
But what they can do, it's a parliamentary procedure that they can come in and put us in that position, and Kamala Harris can come in and break the tie. And, like I said, it's only for three things. It's for funding, it is for the budget, and the debt ceiling. And so you can do it one time a year. So this is where they're going to take their shot, is because, we're just trying to play defense here.
When will that happen?
It could happen at any time. When we get back, that's the scary part. But they can take their shot at that one time that they can go through and circumvent the filibuster. Kamala Harris will come in and break the tie, and that will be our budget.
And that could adversely affect us, especially at places like Pascagoula as far as the shipyard's concerned.
It amazes me how important the military is to secure this country. And then when our adversaries, China, Russia, they see that we're not putting the funding there, we're not nearly keeping up with the investments that they are making, then you become vulnerable. But that's the really threat of going back now, that they would use the Reconciliation Act to do that. And, that's what we're going to have to live with.
Yep.
And we're hoping that there are some Democrats that obviously have enough sense to realize this is not what we need to be doing here.
I don't think you could have more differences in the two administrations. One wanted to make us stronger, and the other one's making us weaker. It sounds simplistic, but that's exactly what's happened.
Anything opposite of Trump is where the money is going to go.
The Supreme Court upheld a pair of Arizona voting rules against the Democratic claims that the states discriminated against minority voters, a decision that could make it more difficult to challenge new state efforts to tighten election regulations. And I mention this because after the Supreme Court ruled, now that Georgia lawsuit is kind of up in the air too, and I guess they're kind of retooling things in Georgia they filed a lawsuit over theirs. So does this make the buzz in Washington even louder as far as packing the Supreme Court?
Oh, no doubt. The chatter is there, the buzz is there, and referring to Georgia, that is a seat that we could possibly win back to the Republican Party in 2022. We're just talking, a little over a year away.
Campaign's on now.
And the campaign is definitely on. We've got 5 senators that are not seeking re-election. So those are 5 Republican senators that we're hoping that we get another Republican there, but we could possibly flip Georgia. So that's, and the law in Georgia is such a good law. It's easier to vote in Georgia than most New England states.
Yeah,
it's harder to cheat.
It's absurd. As far as their complaints, they hold no merits whatsoever. And Alabama looks pretty good, too, doesn't it? As far as getting that seat back?
I think we would be okay. I'm worried about Ohio.
Yeah.
And, there's, like I said, there's 5. I think we're good in Alabama, Missouri. Roy Blunt is not seeking re-election.
Yep.
We're going to have to make sure that we just have a secure campaign.
Well, I asked you about Liz Cheney, your thoughts on that one, and her affiliation with Nancy Pelosi, odd bedfellows, but the analysis from Cindy Hyde-Smith. That's coming up next in D.C. All right, let's talk about this Cheney thing, because the House, the Senate investigated this as far as the siege, and I don't even know what they came up with for the most part. It was a discombobulated group of people. What else did you guys find out in the Senate?
Well, the Department of Justice and the FBI, this was their number one priority. I mean, you talk about thoroughly being investigated, and basically the intel that was collected prior to that event on January the 6th just wasn't adequate and correct information. The numbers who were planning to attend, they didn't know how many would be there. And we certainly didn't know you would have the radicals in there that could come in at 11 o'clock p.m. on the night of January the 6th, because I was the subcommittee chairman over the legislative branch services. I was on a conference call with the Capitol Police, the chief, every administrator. We were all at 11 o'clock that night. We got together and said, okay, guys, we've got to have some answers. You know, what is the preliminary? Tell me what went on today. And they said the intel was just not there, that we would expect that many people. We were so understaffed for the numbers that came. And they weren't considered a radical group, you know, just from the surface of looking at, you know, the rally that they were attending, what time they would be there, and the plans. And, you know, so many indicators. We look at how many buses are rented in the city, you know, how many hotel rooms have been rented for the numbers there. And it was just a lot of inadequacies that were just full-fledged that day, with equipment, with response, with everything.
The arrests have been over 500 now?
Oh, yes. I mean, there have been plenty of arrests already made, and these people need to be criminally punished.
Absolutely.
I mean, we were running for our lives that day and wasn't even sure what we were running from.
It is amazing that a lot of these people who made the initial assault left the gathering as far as the Trump rally, and they were over there starting whatever shenanigans they were going to do, even before the rally was over. So don't tell me this thing wasn't planned.
It's a lot of questions there, but a lot of indicators as well.
Fast forward here. Now Nancy Pelosi wants to keep this alive because Trump is his political capital is still very, very good in the Republican Party. And how do you find ways to damage that political capital? And she's going to have another hearing. But the amazing thing about this that shocked everybody, even Kevin McCarthy, is that Liz Cheney would sign on to that. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm sure that they secured Liz Cheney because they've read everything she's written and said against President Donald Trump. And, you know, this is to keep it going through the elections of 2022. This is what this is about. This is a media blitz. We've got to keep people talking about it. We cannot let it go radio silent. We've got to keep showing the images of how horrible it was that day. And it was horrible. But this is a political tool, is what they're using it for. And it's being investigated. The proper procedures have been taken. And we do have a preliminary report in that indicated everything that could possibly have gone wrong that day, but justifications of it was faulty. And that the equipment, the storage, having keys, access to shields, everything. I mean, it's a very detailed report. But that's not what they're about. They're not about finding out the cause. They're about making sure that it's carried through the 2022 campaigns.
I think the minority leader in the House also said that the Senate architect was given $10 million for some improvements and things such as that. So the hearings that happened in the Senate were substantive, and they probably answered most of the questions. So I'm not sure exactly what additional question. If there are some negative questions that they find, as far as the Democrats, we'll never know.
Oh, no. You're exactly right. House. Well, that's not the purpose of it.
It's not that.
It's not to investigate the day.
Let me see if I can squeeze in this one. Gas prices have doubled, and I mean a short period of time. Just as soon as Joe Biden got in, boom. We went from $1.39 to $2.79, nearing $3 a gallon. And everybody that you see as far as in the business says they are not coming down anytime soon. For the most part, they'll remain steady or go up before all the way through summer. We've had a president who's put on hold some of the explorations in the Gulf of Mexico, which directly affects us.
Oh, yes, when
What's
they
the status
the
of
leasing.
that?
Well, last month there is a federal judge that put an injunction on the Biden administration's pause for the leasing, and that has slowed it down a little bit. But it it is amazing how anti-oil and gas this administration is. They are totally insulted by the discussion of anything to do with fossil fuels. And you, as anybody with any rational, sensible thinking capabilities, you don't transition. If you don't transition into something, you can't just cut off the fossil fuels. But the offshore leasing is really going to affect us, Mississippi as a state, and obviously our neighboring states. And, they're just wanting everyone to drive an electric car, to totally to eliminate fossil fuels, and to do it in a radical manner. I mean, we're just they're full speed ahead on this. And we know that it's not good for the environment. It is not going to be good for the economy. And it will be the plan that they have right now, Paul, is a total plan of disaster.
Where are we as far as the infrastructure package, as far as the Senate's concerned?
Well, we are making a little headway. When we get back Monday, we will have, actually on Tuesday, we will have a lot more briefings on that. Hopefully we will have a real infrastructure plan that doesn't include nursing homes and child care. Yeah. And that's the first one that rolled out. I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing I've had to sit down and try to decipher. So, we know what the crumbling infrastructure is like. We know we need an infrastructure plan, but we've got to have a reasonable one. And from, what I am seeing, I think there is movement on both sides to possibly come up with a reasonable infrastructure plan.
I never understood one of the things is spending billions of dollars for charging stations and not let the marketplace take care of that. Why would the government do that? It's just one of the many, many things. But the other part of this, and I read a great article from an economist and an energy guy who says if tomorrow Joe Biden waved a magic wand, and let's say the city of Los Angeles itself, and every car was fully electric, the grid would crash. Nothing, because we've got to have power plants out there producing that energy.
Exactly, and that's what I'm talking about, the transition.
Yes.
No one is totally opposed to heading in that direction in a reasonable manner.
As a blend and a mix together.
Exactly. Yep. But we will never be able to survive without fossil fuels.
Going back to your old job here, how's the farms look across the state?
I tell you, we've got a lot of water. We've got a lot of rain, and and I never can get off the ag hat. We had a hearing the other day that I went full-fledged ag on, but the farmers, we're just trying to do everything we can to help them. Obviously, the Delta pumps has been a major issue there.
Where are we now with that?
We're in a good position. Thank goodness.
Even with this administration?
Thank goodness we've got most everything done before the former administration left. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Andrew Wheeler, who was the director of EPA, the last official act that he did was come to Vicksburg, Mississippi for me. So literally on the Monday before, he had already cleaned out his office. And he flew into Jackson. We went over. We got a lot of MOUs signed, and we're in good position there. But it's not done. We still have steps to make. But I assure you, that has got my full attention. And everybody refers to me as the pump woman in the Capitol. That we're going to stay on top of this, and we have new players, but we're so far along right now that we're in a much better position than I anticipated.
Yeah. I read this, and I don't understand it, but there was some bipartisan success and a bill that I think you co-sponsored a bill to promote forest, farm, and ranch as far as the carbon credit markets, and so it's above my pay grade. But what does that actually mean, ground level, to the farmers and ranchers?
Mississippians are good conservationists anyway, and they can have access to some tax credits. We're going from that. For the
to some tax
carbon credits that will alleviate some of their.
Final question: did you inform, educate, or make aware to some of the Northerners up there and other people across the state who the national champions were as far as baseball?
Oh, I was so proud of those Bulldogs. It was a great, great day. The text messages were flying everywhere.
I bet they were. Always good seeing you. Be careful on your travels and stay in touch with us.
Well, we will definitely do that. We'd love to come in and report because there's so much that happens.
Don't be a stranger.
And it's just, the headlines that you see, but we like to give details to those.
Got it.